West Virginia is home to many cryptids, folklores, and stories. This series is made to give you information on those stories and leave the decision if they're real up to you. It's been almost a year since my last video, and today we'll be exploring the story of the Grafton Monster. It was a late night in June 1964 for local newspaper reporter Robert Cockrell. The story goes that he was driving down Riverside Drive in Grafton, West Virginia around 11 p.m. He rounded a curve and saw what he described as a giant, huge white obstruction in his headlights. He added that it had slick, white skin, was very muscular, and most odd of all, had no head. This scared him enough to speed home, but because he was a journalist, he knew he had to go back. So he grabbed his friends Jerry Morse and Jim Mouser and went back to investigate. When they got there, they weren't able to find the monster, but what they did find was that the grass that the monster was sighted at was trampled. And while they're investigating, they said a low whistling sound followed them while they searched for the monster. The next day, Robert tried to tell his fellow co-workers at the Grafton Sentinel about the monster that he thought he saw, but they didn't believe him. But that didn't stop his friends, Jerry Morse and Jim Mouser, from telling the whole town, who quickly started a search and a monster hunt on Riverside Drive for any signs of the monster. Eventually, Riverside Drive was full of cars and weapon-wielding teen monster hunters. Because of this new interest in the community, the Grafton Sentinel had no choice but to publish an article titled "Teenage Monster Hunting Party's Latest Activity on Grafton Scene." But in this article, they were very skeptical. They spoke to a few youth who said they had seen it, one saying it was 9 feet tall, about 4 feet wide. Another teen suggesting it was just an escaped polar bear, but not offering where it could have come from. With the article being published, a bigger problem was created. Monster hunters from around the state with guns had started coming to the area, and the local police department was forced to make a comment. They did so in another article in the Grafton Sentinel the very next day, suggesting it was just spring fever, bored locals with wild imaginations from being stuck home all winter, and explained it was probably a person who had been pushing a handcart with a ton of boxes in the area, coupled with teen imagination. Cockrell, though, was sure that he had seen the monster, and wrote a letter to famous cryptologist Gray Barker, who had written about the Mothman. Barker wrote back suggesting that the Grafton Monster was an alien from another planet, and other people said it could have been an interdimensional traveler. For the next about 50 years, not much was said about the Grafton Monster. However, in 2014, an episode of a show called Mountain Monsters aired, which covered the Grafton Monster. The problem? Allegedly, the producers had never even visited Grafton, allegedly getting details wrong, using allegedly bad actors, and allegedly making the town look foolish, according to the Grafton locals. Shortly after that episode aired, Robert Cockrell wrote in a local newspaper called Mountain Statesman, saying his sighting was not real, completely recanting his story. This was a complete 180 from his letter that he had written to Gray Barker, and many people think he didn't want to be associated with the new look that Grafton took on from the episode of Mountain Monsters. However, the town does mark where the Grafton Monster was sighted, and the Grafton Monster was part of the post-apocalyptic 2018 video game Fallout 76, based in West Virginia. Even with the perceived bad look from the Mountain Monsters episode, people continue to visit the area in search of the Grafton Monster, including myself. So what do you think? Was it real? Was it spring fever? An alien? An interdimensional being? A person pushing a cart? We may never know what Cockrell truly saw that night, but we can make our own assumptions. I'm TJ History, and thanks for watching Cryptids of West Virginia.